Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar event presented by Ingram Microcloud, devoted to helping you strengthen your CMMC 2.0 go-to-market strategy with Microsoft. This is one of the many webcasts of our Seamless Security series devoted to helping our partners grow what the industry estimates to be a $300 billion industry by 2026. And so for today's webinar, we've gathered some fantastic subject matter experts around CMMC. We're joined by Binil Pillai, worldwide SMB security leader for Microsoft, based out of Redmond, Washington. And before, I have to give you this honor, Binil, before coming into this role, Binil has been in various director titled roles around strategy and business development for Microsoft's enterprise space, specifically the security space, and has co-authored a book on Zero Trust and the journey across the digital estate. So we're very excited to have him here on the webinar today. We're also very equally as excited to be joined by guests Kelby and Traian Talpalaru, who are the VP Corporate Development and Strategic Partnerships, as well as Solution Architect at XQ. And both Kelby and Traian have been heavily integrated in the CMMC space, but more importantly, have built a solution that can help you, MSPs, build data compliant and sovereign solutions that can help organizations meet regulations like CMMC or GDPR or HIPAA, wrapped around some of the solutions like Microsoft, Google, and AWS, for example. If you don't already know me, my name is Briana Lau, Growth Solutions Lead for Seamless Security here at Ingram Micro. And before we get started with the webinar, I wanted to leave some housekeeping notes. So this webcast is live and is currently being streamed via Teams webinar. If you do want to re-listen or share this webcast with a colleague of yours, we will be sending an email that will consolidate not only the recording, but as well as the deck for you to review within 24 hours of this webinar being finalized. And because we are live, we are asking all participants to use the chat window on this Teams experience to ask any questions. We do have some time at the end to unmute and go through your questions if you would like to speak up and ask our team of subject matter experts. So for today's agenda, we'll be talking about CMMC 2.0 and its ripple effect across organizations in the DID. We'll also hear from Binil on Microsoft's stance and solution availability that can help organizations meet this new compliance. What an SMB/SMC alternative for CMMC Level 2 compliance looks like, and having XQ go through what that solution capability would look like in terms of combining Microsoft and their product. And then we'll deep dive into a solution. We have Traian going through a demo of what the XQ solution looks like, and then we'll close with some Q&A from our participants. So to kick it off, I would love to introduce our partners. Maybe it's the first time that you've seen this slide, but this is what we are calling in terms of our key growth areas for where we see revenue opportunity for our partners. Here at Ingram, we've become quite growth obsessed in helping our partners organize and define the focus areas of where we believe can drive the biggest and highest business outcome with accelerated growth for what customers are looking for in solutions from their partners. And we've categorized this into 4 pillars. The first one being modern cloud platforms. The second, and why you're joined here today, is seamless security, as well as connected workplace and business performance. And our goal here, just to summarize where we stand in terms of these growth solutions, is to provide not only the service in terms of ISV connections, but as well as the solutions as well that can help you package and build security services for key areas like endpoint security, identity security, and building an overall security operations center. So that's why I'm very excited for today's topic, specifically around CMMC, on how solutions that we've currently onboarded to Ingram Micro's cloud marketplace can level set the playing field for how MSPs can support a customer's cybersecurity journey in terms of data compliance. So with that, now I want to quickly just give a quick orientation around CMMC. Some of our partners may have heard of it, some of them may not. So I just want to level set kind of the history of how it all started. CMMC, which stands for Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, has been a quite relevant topic for many organizations within the defense industrial base, which we like to shorten into DIB. And it was created by the US Department of Defense, or DoD, as a way to provide a standard for protection, storage, and transmission of controlled, unclassified information, otherwise abbreviated as CUI. And so historically, contractors were able to self-assess against the NIST 800-171, which CMC is highly reflected upon. But until 2020, the DoD, in doing some checks and going through organizations that claimed they were compliant, were noticing that it wasn't entirely true, right? So that's why they created the first framework model, which they call CMMC Model 1.0, which had those more stringent rules of what the DoD was looking for any contractors that were applying for tenders to work with them. And since then, the DoD has attempted to streamline what used to be 5 maturity models to now a 2.0 version, into now 3 levels of maturity, separated into a fundamental level, advanced level, and an expert level, which is level 3. The second version of CMMC is estimated to be written into contracts as early as May 2023, which is now making it a very relevant conversation that customers are having with their MSPs or just general systems integrators on how to remain compliant and still tender with the DoD, which may be, if not all, but a portion of their business and offers a good chunk of their revenue. So in terms of scope, approximately 300,000 DIB organizations will be affected by this new CMMC 2.0 structure, where most of them, a majority of them, will fall into level 1, foundations, or level 2, advanced, which offers the largest chunk of that 300,000 organization scope. Around level 1, this will apply to about 140,000 contractors. And generally, what is considered a contractor in this level is those who do not handle any type of information critical to national security. And it's simple. It's just an application towards 17 practices and a yearly self-assessment. But where we start getting into the nitty-gritty and where it gets interesting is around the level 2 advanced security framework, where some of the contractors that will have to abide by this are generally managing in some form information that's critical to national security. And this is where we're going to be spending a majority of today's webinar talking about. In terms of scope, there's about 80,000 relevant DIB organizations that will have to apply to this structure. So it's something that we're definitely going to help guide in terms of how you as an MSP can support in their compliance here. The last level, very shortly, is expert, which is a much smaller cohort, but it applies to the highest priority contractors, usually working with large critical defense programs. You'll see kind of those 3-letter acronyms being the ones that are generally applied to this level. So with that being said, the quick overview of CMMC, there are different recommendations that cloud solution providers like Microsoft have come out to support organizations around. So I'd love to use this as a way to segue into Binil and his stance from a Microsoft's perspective of some of the insights that he's gathered in, addressing the space, and also how he can help advise how partners can right-size the appropriate opportunity here. Binil, off to you.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Briana. I really appreciate it for having me here. And big thanks to Ingram and yours to really schedule this meeting with your resellers community. It's my pleasure to meet all of you here. Like Vanessa said, my name is Binil Pillai, and I lead the Microsoft security business for small and medium customers worldwide. So before I talk about CMMC, I wanted to set context why it is important from Microsoft perspective. So, Brian, if you could just click on to the whole content. Thank you. In the United States itself, the latest statistics shows that there are 32 million small businesses, which account almost 99% of all US businesses. It's very interesting. So in this small and medium business world, things are rapidly changing due to the urgency of digital transformation. And that's where the small and medium business are taking a lot of actions to be number one and be compliant with the work need to be done from a regulatory standpoint, as well as having the contractual alignment that is supported by the government and DoD. It's a hybrid and remote world. That's where we are today, where their workers are increasingly distributed, able to work on more flexible schedule in a variety of places with increased mobility and across more and more devices that might be company provided or personal devices. All of this newfound freedom is refreshing and great for the workforce, but this distributed landscape also poses security challenges. Let me share some of the statistics. Overall, ransomware attacks have been up almost 300% in the past year, with over 50% targeting small business. The economic cost of these attacks for small can be catastrophic. With over 60% of small businesses are not being able to operate after they have experienced a cyber attack. This is painful reality. And this is where the importance of CMMC comes into the picture as a national security defense. The interesting thing is, like our country, here it is mandatory requirement. And as part of
Binil, we're
ahead.
just getting some latency issues. Do you want to try and turn off your video just so that it's a better hearing experience for our partners?
Let me do that. Seems like my also a little bit of a hang on. You click on the button. Can you hear me now?
Much better. I think if we'd love to see you, but if we turned off video, maybe that would also help too.
Yeah, and I'm not able to even enable the button for some reason. I'll be trying it because it seems like the Teams kind of hang on my side too. Yeah, I think it's struggling. Can you hear me now?
I think this is better.
Okay, you can hear me now.
Yes.
Awesome. So let me continue. If you can move on to the next slide, Briana, that'll be awesome. Awesome. So as Briana said at the beginning, this is where the CMMC become more important for a customer as well as suppliers to align with the expectation from DoD, and it's a mandatory requirement. As part of its focus on security and resiliency of the defense industrial base sector, the DoD is working with contractors to enhance the protection of controlled unclassified information, CUI, within the supply chain and ensure contractors can manage it safely. There are approximately 3,000 customer organizations impacted by the CMMC in the US, and most of them fall under Microsoft SMB and SMC segmentation. I would say that approximately 80%. Currently, a commercial cloud environment support FCI plus CMMC 2.0 level 1 data protection requirements. For CMMC 2.0 level 2 and 3, customers need to choose GSCC high for their overall compliance strategy. However, for small business, I mean those mom and pop shops that fulfill DoD tenders alongside other facets of their business, For them, GCC hike can be a massive investment. Here is where our partnership with the XQ and Captiva, being creative in building a solution that fits all shapes and forms. We work with Ingram, XQ, and Captiva to build a solution on top of our SMB business productivity and security solution called Microsoft 365 Business Premium. Small business can leverage this solution on our commercial cloud environment, and this solution helps SMB customer determine the journey for CMMC level 2 certification. Again, it's our responsibility to educate the SMB customer about the solution so that they can make the right decision towards achieving their CMMC compliance goals. I wanted to conclude before I pass over to the next speaker. As you know, CMMC will impact all organizations that provide goods and services to the DoD. It's currently pending rules making completion, expected between late 2023. When fully implemented, CMMC will be a DoD contractual requirement and a condition for award. So let's help SMBs prioritize their action on CMMC. Again, our goal is to, through this partnership here with Ingram, XQ, and Captiva, is to educate the customer to make the right decision. Thank you.
Awesome. So moving on, we have some guests from XQ. I'm going to ask Kelby and Traian to give a quick introduction of themselves and XQ.
Thank you so much, Briana. So my name is Kelby Price, and I am the Vice President of Corporate Development and Partnerships at XQ. Really excited to share with you the XQ product and our partnership with Microsoft today. Joining me is our lead solutions architect, Traian, who I'll pass it to you after this presentation to share a demo of our product. Traian, do you mind just giving a brief introduction of yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Kelby. So my name's Traian. I'm the head solutions architect here at XQ, and I act as Kelby's technical right hand.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So as I mentioned, we are XQ Message, and we're really excited today to share with you a partnership that we've developed in conjunction with Microsoft Business Premium and Ingram Micro. At XQ, we have developed something called Zero Trust Data. Now, I'm sure you've heard a lot about Zero Trust, but this truly is something different. We believe in protecting what is most important, and that's the data itself. The core tenets of Zero Trust, as we look at it, are trust nothing, always verify, and track everything. We do this by micro-segmenting access at the data level. We bind security directly to the data and then set policies that associate with the security that state who can read data, where that data can be read, and when it can be read. Those policies and security allow data to be secured wherever it travels, whether it's in your customer's control and physical possession, or whether you've shared that with another partner. Next slide. So at its simplest form, what XQ does is we protect data even when network security fails. We like to say that we have a blast radius of 1. By protecting every packet of data individually with a unique encryption key and unique policies, you're able to ensure that even if network security fails and someone is able to get into any of the cloud storage that you have or any of your emails, for example, you're still able to protect what's most important, which is the data itself. Next slide, please. By doing this, what we do integrated into our product is the ability to audit every data access. So built into our product, we actually have forensic level auditability that your customers can use that track every time any packet of data has any attempt of access. So that's emails, files, if you're transferring data from on-premises to the cloud. You now have full granular visibility into every action that happens upon data, which is really important for CMMC 2.0. As I mentioned, current cybersecurity solutions out there are really focusing on zero trust network access, which is protecting, the perimeter of a house, for example. So building a taller fence to protect the dog that's in your front yard. What XQ has done is we've completely created a breakthrough solution that actually protects the dog itself or the data itself. So that data can go throughout a neighborhood, or that dog can travel throughout your neighborhood while remaining secure and compliant. And you can call the data back at any point in time. In this example, you can call that dog home at any point in time. So at its core, what we're doing is we're streaming quantum entropy, so really long random numbers to the edge, and breaking up data into really small packets. So in the examples that we're going to go over today, these small packets include emails and files. Each of those emails and files, when they are shared, are encrypted with a unique encryption key and these unique policies. What this enables is real-time data governance. You and your customers can now view who has access to your data at all points in interactions throughout the data lifecycle, and control and manage that data access throughout its lifecycle. This enables CMMC 2.0 compliance by really managing the communication and storage of CUI. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into that today, how this type of a product that's integrated with Microsoft Business Premium and some of those Microsoft products will enable customers and organizations to meet CMMC 2.0 compliance while remaining on commercial cloud and remaining and something that is, very flexible as opposed to some of the other solutions that are currently available. Next slide, please. So the CMMC XQ product suite that we're going to go over today and how organizations can meet CMMC 2.0 include 2 XQ products. So we have an integration with Outlook as well as a Vault integration. The Vault integration is an integration with OneDrive as well as Azure Blob. And my colleague Traian is going to go into each of these products. But both of these products combined enable organizations to meet a majority of the number of the controls that are required for CMMC 2.0 based off of NIST 800-171. So we have these built-in integrations that are really easy for your customers to onboard and get started with their CMMC journey. Next slide, please. So as Binil was mentioning, there is a large customer segment currently that needs to meet CMMC 2.0 by 2023 that really do not have solutions that are available for this component of the defense industrial base to meet CMMC 2.0 in a cost-effective and time-effective manner. A lot of the solutions that are out there currently are exceptionally expensive. So for a 50-person organization, we've been quoted between $300,000 to $1 million in order to meet CMMC 2.0 with all of the technology solutions that are required. It's often very confusing. So a lot of these small and medium-sized organizations, they just do not have the bandwidth to be able to have a full-time CISO or CTO that's focused on CMMC 2.0 compliance, and they just don't know where to get started. So what we've developed here today and what we're going to go over is a breakthrough process in order to get to CMMC 2.0 compliance. Now, some of the other technology solutions that are on the market that consultants are using to enable organizations to become CMMC 2.0 compliant, they take a really long time to onboard customers. The XQ integrations with Microsoft Business Premium enable organizations to become CMMC 2.0 compliant in 1/6 of the time as compared to some of the other products that are on the market. So it's really easy for you to onboard customers onto these products and deploy. Next slide, please. So the solution that I keep talking about, it's a partnership between Microsoft, XQ, and we've also brought in a C3PAO and leading assessor within the market, Captiva Solutions. What this enables is the technology component of the product, so Microsoft Business Premium, as well as the XQ integrations with Outlook, OneDrive, and Azure Blob, meets 77 of the 110 controls defined by NIST 800-171. And then our partners, so MSP, RPO, C3PAOs like Captiva, are able to enable organizations to meet some of those controls that are not defined by technology. So things like physical access, ongoing training, defining policies. What we've done here is we've created an easy to deploy compliant solution that is cost effective for customers and organizations in a SaaS manner that enables these organizations to meet CMMC 2.0 with the combination of both technology as well as services from C3POs, RPOs, and MSPs. As I've gone through, today we're going to go through a demo of those products and those technology enablement solutions that enable organizations to meet CMMC 2.0. That is based off of integrations with Outlook, email, as well as OneDrive, which meets these requirements for the compliant communications and storage of CUI data. Next slide, please. One thing that I wanted to bring up before we dive into the demo is in November of 2022, the DoD came out with a zero trust framework. This is a requirement that all agencies working with the DoD and vendors selling to the DoD will have to adhere to by 2027. And what's interesting about this publication is that while previously they defined zero trust as zero trust network access, they actually called out specifically that we should consider all networks compromised at this point. So we cannot just rely on zero trust network access from a zero trust perspective. What they truly called out here is that what's most important is protecting the data itself. So in this publication in November of 2022, the Zero Trust Data Framework for the DoD, they called out 7 requirements to meet zero trust data, which they called as a key factor for an organization that is having a zero trust standpoint. And these 7 requirements are things like data logging, data level encryption, forensic level auditing. XQ is the only patented and commercially available solution that meets these requirements. And why is that important? Why am I bringing that up on today's call? Well, because all of these organizations that are investing in CMMC solutions are selling to the DoD, we already know that by 2027, they're going to have zero trust data integrated into their standpoint. So if they invest in the Microsoft Business Premium and XQ solution, they're investing in a future-proofed technology. Otherwise, that investment would be technology debt. So by providing your customers with this solution, you're not only enabling them to meet CMMC 2.0 today, but you're also future-proofing them to maintain their relationship with the DoD in the future. Next slide, please. So the client benefits. Because you can now control data, whether it's in your physical possession or outside of your physical possession, if you shared it in the cloud, for example, or shared it with partners, you now have data governance everywhere in the world. You can geo-fence and geo-restrict where data is accessible. So for CMMC, we're going to go over how we geo-restrict that CUI data is only accessible within the US, for example. In addition to that, you can track and control any data, files, or emails that you've shared externally. So using XQ, if you have a data that is stored in Azure Blob, for example, and a bad actor has managed to exfiltrate that data, you are able to now manage the decryption keys and revoke access to those decryption keys throughout the lifecycle of the data. And what that enables is that now the data that a bad actor may have been able to access, it turns into digital dust. There is no value to that data. So now your customers have significantly improved visibility and management of their data, even when it's outside of their control. This enables them to leverage Azure and the powers of the cloud without having to worry about some of those cybersecurity risks that you typically see. XQ is cloud agnostic, so if you do have organizations that are using multiple clouds, you are able to have a heterogeneous, secure hybrid cloud. And of course, we simplify that compliance requirement globally. Next slide, please. Working with MSPs, there are a lot of benefits to providing the solution to your customers. So some of those benefits include a new customer pipeline. So all of these organizations that need to meet CMMC, they need to meet CMMC 2.0 by the end of the year in order to maintain their existing DoD contracts, as well as to apply for any new DoD opportunities. So you are able to now extend the opportunity to your customers and open your pipeline. You now have increased flexibility in terms of what types of solutions you're offering to your clients. This product enables additional service opportunities. So managing all of these security solutions, policies, etc., would enable you as an MSP to actually attain additional revenue by having additional serviceable hours. Next slide, please. Off to you, Briana, for the selling of on the Ingram Cloud Marketplace.
Yeah, so as I shared early on the call, we are happy to be an exclusive provider of XQ, and it's as simple as finding the subscription through our Ingram Micro Cloud Marketplace by doing a quick search of XQ in the search bar of our marketplace. And there you can find the 4 different services that are available to purchase. The one in relation to today's conversation is the one specifically on CMMC compliance, where it does package the 2 products, including your communications and Vault platform. So this is just a quick and easy way for us to preview how easy it is to support your customers in buying both the Microsoft license as well as XQ license to really consolidate that solution for CMMC. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Kelby.
Well, thank you so much. I will go into how MSPs benefit from the Microsoft Business Premium XQ solution for CMMC. But ahead of that, I actually want to pass it over to my colleague, Traian, to do a demo of both of the products that I've gone into in depth today that solve the CMMC 2.0 requirements for your customers and potential customer base. Traian?
Awesome. Thanks, Kelby. So just as I kind of pull this up, I want to highlight a couple points that Kelby made previously. So one thing that we do differently from existing technologies that are out there is we provide the end client the tools necessary to encrypt all their data directly on the device itself. So what this means is that we at XQ have no control over your data. We have no visibility into your data whatsoever. All the encryption is actually happening on the device itself. The only thing that we actually manage are the keys and policies associated with that data. And to add on to that, our full backend is containerized. So for any client that requires that they manage the keys and policies themselves as well, we can fully deploy our entire backend into their existing infrastructure, and then they can manage that piece of it as well. This also helps with clients that require an air-gapped solution. So this is no external connections to which they can deploy this entire backend internally into their organization, and the keys and policies can be managed in an air-gapped setting. So with that, I'll go into kind of our first product. So this will be our Outlook add-in. So as I mentioned before, this product essentially helps you encrypt all of your emails with unique encryption keys as the user is kind of sending them out. So what that process would look like is for an end user, they would craft this email as you normally would, so their overall workflow doesn't change. The only difference is the moment that they hit the send button, they would get this notification of whether or not to send encrypted. Now, at CMMC 2.0, there are certain labeling standards that have to be applied, and if these labeling standards are applied, this would push you into the direction of sending encrypted. You wouldn't get this option to send without encryption. But with that being said, if I hit the send encrypted button, what that's going to do again is all this information will be encrypted with a unique encryption key directly on my device itself. This email will be sent along its general destination, and then the end user will receive an email in an encrypted fashion. So what this email will look like is something along these lines. Just as a quick note, this email is fully white labeled. So for end clients, you have the logo and everything associated with this email can change on a client-to-client basis. Another thing that we kind of pride ourselves on is you'll kind of notice here, since this email is stored encrypted, in actuality, within the Exchange server itself, this email would be fully encrypted. So if someone were to get access to the Exchange server storing this email, they wouldn't actually have access to the contents of the email unless the keys are also available to them. So with that, as an end user, if the end user does have the add-in, all they would simply do to decrypt this email is click this read this message with the XQ Outlook add-in. What that'll do is it'll do the same process in reverse. So your laptop or your device will authenticate based on the user, grab that decryption key, and then be able to decrypt this email and show you the contents of this email. With the attachment, very similar to the message, you can simply click the attachment, same kind of idea. What that'll do is it'll decrypt and then grant you access to that file. The obvious question with this comes up of what do you do if you don't have the add-in? So an external contractor is receiving an encrypted email using this technology. They would need some way to kind of decrypt it. So what they can do is they can simply click this link at the bottom. I'll quickly copy it here. What that'll do is it'll take them to a management portal where they'll be forced to authenticate. Here I'm already authenticated, and then they'd gain visibility into this email. If they wish to reply in an encrypted fashion, they can do so by clicking this reply button here, crafting their own email, and hitting send. What that'll do is it'll send the encrypted email back to the initial sender. Additionally, with any files associated with this email, they can also pop into this decrypt file section, upload the encrypted file, and what that'll do is it'll decrypt the file and grant them access as well. Additionally, as Kelby was highlighting, obviously with CMMC, there's very strict compliance standards, and there's a requirement for all documentation of the who, what, where, when access attempts to be visible and provided to essentially a compliance officer within your organization. So what you can do in this portal is you can pop over to the communication section, pop into this communication that you just sent. So this will be this email. Within this, you'll get a full compliance log. So the full who, what, where, when of each data interaction attempt. You'll notice here, I'm located in Abbotsford, Canada, at what time I opened this email, etc. All of this data can be exported into a third-party SIEM. If you wish, all this integration is already built into our portal. So if you wish to essentially consolidate all this information into one area, you can do so. Additionally to that, as Kelby was highlighting, obviously with CMMC, there's certain policies that have to be put in place associated with your data. So what you can do in these policies is shift over to the policy manager. What this section allows you to do is implement very granular policies associated with your data that span across all of our products. So this wouldn't be just email. This will also apply to the Vault product that I'll show you directly after this. But what you can do here is we have pre-built policy packs associated with certain compliance standards. So here you'll see the CMMC policy pack. You can simply add it, and then this will apply to all the data that has been sent encrypted. I'll show you a quick example of this where I'm going to block access from Canada to the United States, which is where I'm located. I'm located in Canada. So if I activate this policy and now attempt to do the exact same flow I did before, where I attempt to decrypt this email, it'll attempt to do so, but it's the geo-restriction policy put in place will prevent me from actually authorizing and grabbing that decryption key associated with this data. Secondly to this, let me just quickly turn this guy back off. The obvious question comes up of what do you do when you notice a malicious access attempt associated with your data? So in that scenario, you will be notified immediately. And then what you can do is you can go into that specific user or even the individual data item themselves, and you can hit this revoke all button. What this does is we have two options for this. So the first of which is it'll suspend access to the encryption key until the administrator goes in and rectifies the situation. The second of which is it'll completely destroy this decryption key, essentially rendering the data digital dust. So if I do that in this scenario, I'm going to click this confirm delete button. And now again, if I try to do that same process where I'm attempting to read this message, it'll attempt to do so, but its inability to actually grab that decryption key and then decrypt the contents of this email, it'll show you that this message can no longer be decrypted due to me essentially revoking that key. Secondly, to this product, I will pop over to one additional product, which will be our Vault solution. Sorry, just as I move this around. So what the Vault solution does, very similar to the email, it provides you the necessary tools to encrypt all your files directly on your device in a very seamless way. So the moment you hit the connect button here, what that's going to do is it's going to spin up a virtual file share that'll do the same interactions that I did with email, just with your general file system. So what you'll notice is for the end user, this looks completely normal. So they can use all their typical applications that normally would use. So nothing outside of the general workflow has to change. So here, for example, if I'm a user and I'm uploading a number of files, I'll upload this hello team.txt. And additionally, this one other file, I'll upload a revoke.txt. What you'll notice here and what I have open on the left-hand side since I connected this to OneDrive is that within this OneDrive location, these files are always stored in encrypted state. So we're kind of going back to our initial notion that everything should always be stored encrypted. The only time it should ever actually get decrypted is directly on the end user's device when they're accessing that file. So in order to do so for the end user, all they would simply do is interact with this file. What this will do behind the scenes is authenticate you using your device, and then I'll grab that decryption key, decrypt the contents of this file, and display the regular content. You can make edits and then hit save. What that'll do is it'll re-encrypt with a unique key and then store it back in its destination. With this works across multiple storage platforms. So here I'm showing OneDrive as an example, but this does work with Dropbox, Google Drive, even localized storage solution like network access storage. And thirdly to that, it does also work with object-oriented storage platforms such as S3 or Azure Blob environments. But with this technology, you also get that same level of compliance logging. So if I pop back over to this communication section that I'd open here, what I can do here is I'll pop into this hello-team.txt, and you'll get that full log of each and every time I actually access this file, my location, etc. The same level of logging you get with email, just with this Vault product. Secondly to this, you also have that same level of ability to manage the policies and the keys associated with this data. So for example, if I pop into this revoke.txt file that I also uploaded, and I want to revoke access to the key, I can do so in here. And now if I try to do that same process of opening the hello-team.txt, but with this file, what that's going to do is very similar to email. It'll attempt to authenticate my device and gain access to that decryption key, but its inability to do so will inform you that you don't have permissions to access this specific file.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Traian. So the storage component of the XQ solution is used to store all CUI that is required for CMMC for your organizations. And the XQ integration with Outlook is a great flexible solution for your customers to be able to communicate with both the DoD and the Defense Industrial Base, as well as commercial clients. Because oftentimes a limitation of some of the other solutions out there is that they are closed environments where you'll have to actually purchase multiple licenses for employees to be able to communicate within the DoD and with commercial clients. Whereas with XQ and Microsoft Business Premium, it's much more flexible. So what does this mean in terms of revenue for MSPs? As I mentioned earlier on, the XQ integration with Outlook and the XQ integration, the Vault solution for the secure storage of CUI, is $56 per seat per year. This includes 4 terabytes of data storage monthly for each employee and equates to $134 approximately revenue for MSPs for seats. In addition, organizations will have to upgrade their customers to Microsoft Business Premium should they not be current users. So this is an additional $40 in revenue per seat per year. In total, MSPs are able to collect approximately $174 per seat per year by providing this solution to their customers, which is up to a 75% savings compared to other solutions that are on the market. So what I want you to take away today is that this solution is not only much more cost effective, but it is a roadmap for organizations to attain CMMC 2.0 compliance, unlike any other solution that's on the market. So it's a turnkey product that customers can use to attain CMMC and in a much quicker period of time, because they're not having to wait to get onboarded onto some of these other sovereign clouds, etc. Next slide, please. Lastly, I just wanted to go through the timeline associated with getting a customer up and running with XQ, Microsoft Business Premium, and then going through the assessment process. As I mentioned, this process decreases around a sixth of the time how long organizations are required to get CMMC 2.0 accreditation. So first off, as an MSP, you will work with your customers to purchase and configure the XQ integrations and add-ons with your customers to make sure that they're meeting those CMMC requirements. We have outlined all of this for you, so it's really easy to get this deployed with your customers in a compliant format. Then you will be working with the RPO, like Captiva Solutions, which is our bespoke partner here at XQ, in order to devise the pre-assessment. Following that, you will go into the assessment period. This typically takes, depending on how engaged the organization is, between 2 to 5 months. At that point, you'll be able to get accredited with CMMC 2.0. As we are all aware, there are a lot of organizations that are going to need to be accredited by the end of the year in order to maintain their existing contracts and bid for new contracts. This is a really big challenge because there are not a lot of C3PAOs currently accredited by the DoD to do that accreditation. So we strongly want to urge you and your customers to accelerate the adoption of CMMC 2.0 today and start working on CMMC 2.0 today in order to ensure that by the time this becomes a requirement for existing contracts and to bid on new contracts, that your customers do not have any business risk, because if they're not compliant and accredited by that time, they will not be able to bid on new contracts. So in order to reduce the backlog of accreditation that will appear and is already actually starting to appear with the accreditors that are doing the CMMC 2.0 accreditation, we strongly urge that you and your customers start looking at CMMC 2.0 today and start working with XQ and Microsoft Business Premium in order to attain that right away. So with that, I'll pass it back to Briana to just talk a little bit about demos on demand.
Thanks, Kelby. So we are actually at the point where we can switch down to the Q&A. I know that there's been some questions from partners during the presentation that maybe if I'll bring up Binil, Traian, yourself, just to speak lightly or in full of some of the capacity of the solution itself. So the first question from David is around Outlook or Exchange Online, and the ability for XQ to integrate with those Microsoft solutions.
Thank you so much, David. Traian, I'll pass it over to you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So the email product works as an extension to Outlook. So this will work in Outlook. We have been working on a solution for essentially doing this with just 365 Exchange, but currently it is only using the Outlook application, but this does also span, for example, Google products as well. So we do have a Chrome extension as well as Gmail, and this works across both platforms.
Awesome. And I see a hand raised from Rob. I allowed you to unmute yourself. So if you want to come on and ask your question. Maybe there's some issues.
Technical issues this morning, but I do see there's a couple of other questions. Do we want to go through those?
Yeah,
first?
let's go through that one first, and then we'll allow Rob to just get his bearings.
Okay, great. So one of the questions William asked is he asked about CMMC level 2 requiring all support to be US based and that only GCC high is US based support. Can we please comment? So with the XQ integrations, we are able to meet that accreditation because we're not actually accessing any of the data. We're geo-restricting access to the data to the US, but the data itself is being encrypted before it leaves the device itself and decrypted on the other end. What this means is that only the approved users that are actually developing, communicating, and storing that data are able to access this. So that is how we're able to attain CMMC 2.0 without having to get onto GCC High or a government cloud. So you're able to leverage cloud, commercial cloud while maintaining this compliance. We've worked together with both Microsoft as well as the leading assessors within the DIBCAT to ensure that this is meeting all of those requirements. So thank you for the question. It's a common question that we get, but because of this breakthrough approach that we have to security and really being able to granularly grant access to data, we're able to avoid this requirement.
Awesome. Let's try it again. Robert, is there a possibility for you to unmute?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yay.
All right. So I had two very simple questions. You mentioned 400,000 SMBs that need CMMC compliance by 2023. So where do we find a list of those 400,000 companies?
That's a really good question. So we can share some lists by the US government. So it's any vendor that is selling to the DoD, but any vendor that sells to those vendors is also required to meet CMMC 2.0. So there are a number of resources online that we can circulate after this call that share a lot of those vendors that are selling, because they have to actually be accredited by the US government. So there's a lot of lists that we can share with you in order to help target some of those customers.
Yes, if you would share those lists. And now the other one was just I'm a little confused on the pricing. The 365 price was $22 per seat or $264 per seat. And I guess you meant that was with if they went 365 plus the XO, is that correct? Or the XQ rather?
So it's the XQ portion of the CMMC solution, because in order to meet CMMC 2.0, you need both solutions, because Microsoft's 365 Business Premium solution includes Microsoft Intune as well as Threat Defender, which is a requirement of some of those controls within NIST. So you need both products. The XQ component is $56 a month, which equates to $62 per seat per year. And the Microsoft Business Premium component is $22 per month, which equates to $264 per month, per seat per year.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There you go. And so you then, the commission structure, how the commission structure stands through our partnership with Ingram, enables you to make almost $175 per seat per year for your customers. Now, that might sound really high, but for CMMC, this is a greatly reduced and much more price sensitive solution than any other solution that is on the market. So we've had a lot of demand from vendors, especially that small, medium-sized organization that cannot afford GCC High, for example, and some of those other much more expensive solutions on the market.
That's excellent. Thanks very much.
No problem. Thank you for your question.
I'll move it on to you, KB.
Yeah, go ahead, KB.
Hi, how's it going? Thank you for the presentation. The question I had just a little bit around the functionality. I've seen these types of solutions before in terms of doing the encryption from the client base. I see that you know the policies and all that are there, which integrates the holistic solution. I get that, but one thing that we have a challenge that we have seen as a challenge from the user end is that once you start doing all this encryption and stuff, how do you still preserve some of the search functionality, the ability to find things in their workflow when you start encrypting all their stuff individually? Or does the product have a way to engage in a search where it'll unlock, like use a dynamic encryption unlocking as the search happens so they can find things? Or, you know, how do you address that issue? Because I know that if you're going with another solution, say you're leveraging, you know, the Microsoft itself and using data loss prevention and something that, you know, might be more convoluted, you could still leverage a lot of the searching, even if you're doing the encryption in the emails. There's a way that they can do that. So how do we get the customer that capability still when they have, like, you know, thousands of emails, and if everything starts getting encrypted, how do they search and find content?
That's a great question. Of course, there are certain limitations between GCC High and some of those Microsoft solutions that are built into the Microsoft stack. All of these compliance requirements do have specific limitations. We enable searching by enabling you to search the meta tags associated with that, and I'll have Traian touch on that shortly. One thing that I would touch on is that this solution is really targeted toward that SMB organization that cannot afford, you know, some of those higher end, costlier solutions out there that might have additional solutions. But the searching of emails for all of these compliance requirements, whether it's GDPR, CMMC, et cetera, is a challenge. And so what we've done is we associate meta tags and the actual subject matter so that you can search that. But Traian, I'll pass it to you to speak further on that.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. So one of the this is an obvious challenge that we have due to all the emails sitting in an encrypted state, and we're currently looking for an exact solution for this. But as Kelby mentioned, we do have some ability to search. So you can obviously search using the subject line, and you can search using certain metadata associated with the email. But the actual, due to the data itself within the email being encrypted, there is certain limitations to where you can't search for specific content within the email currently.
Okay, because like for example, if you're leveraging even things like EFS, which is like built into the Windows native server system, whatever, when you have files that are encrypted at rest, they're still searchable using your own unique key that will unlock and then search and then kind of keep them encrypted in their rested state. So that's something that we really have to know how to. It'd be good for you guys to have a scenario to really address that, or how can we address that when it comes up with a problem from the customer. I don't want to be implementing a solution, then after all of a sudden they're sitting there and they can't find things or search things. It's a big problem, right, in their workflow. So I know that it's a requirement, but a lot of, as you said, a lot of companies aren't until 2027. It's going to be a big rude awakening when they wake up one day and all their emails in their inbox are encrypted and they can't find certain things like they're used to. So we really have to have a way to address that or tackle that concern from the end user, because I foresee it as a big potential issue, and we don't want to get into a situation where you have a problem with your customer, right? So we got to have a way to address that, or have a roadmap to show them, hey, like this is where we can get, or this is what you can do. Or again, I know you said you're working on something, but it'd be great to have a way to address that. It's a really big thing. That's what do other people think on the call?
So what I would say before we open it up to everyone on the call is that you do have the ability, if you're the user, to search, because as you're talking about, you're able to access as long as you're authenticated, your emails. But from an administrator, those types of things, that's why we're associating the meta tags for a search perspective. With that being said, there are limitations for all of these requirements and all of these compliance solutions out there. But this truly is the most flexible solution for your organizations to meet the biggest requirement that they're going to have. Yes, there are challenges and restrictions for all of these solutions, but if these organizations do not attain CMMC 2.0 compliance by the structured timeline that they are required to, they're going to lose the majority of their revenue. And what we're really passionate about here at XQ is ensuring the security of the industrial-based supply chain for the US, and through that, by offering these SMBs a price and cost-effective and flexible solution for them to meet those requirements. So
as a prospective partner, do we have an option to do a POC with you so we can try, like actually test it out and see that final functionality? Like, if we have an option?
Yes, absolutely.
So we can try and engage after. Yeah, thank you. We can engage after and give it a shot. Thank you.
Yeah, and we would welcome that. This solution, as I said, it's really easy to deploy. So we would love to provide you guys with access to this, to try it out yourselves, see the ease of use. The co-founders come from one individual who has 30 years experience within the intelligence community, actually developed Zero Trust within one of those 3-letter agencies. The other co-founder developed games for 3-year-olds and thinks that, most individuals are technology toddlers. So the whole product was developed for ease of use. So I would welcome you guys to reach out and try the product out yourself. And then, of course, we'd love to work with you to provide this to your customers as well.
Should we work with one more question, David? I know you've had your hand up. Do you want to ask your question for the team?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
So my original question was Outlook, the actual app, versus Exchange 365, and the response was that it's Outlook, the actual app, with an extension on that app. However, the demo today was using Progressive Web App, which is effectively just Chrome, but it's full screen. Like, you can't tell that it's Chrome. That's all Progressive Web App is. So like it's a deeper version of my first question. Like, so we can use Progressive Web App. We don't necessarily have to have Outlook the app?
That's correct. Sorry, I misspoke when I initially read your question. You can use either or.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
All right. Well, if that concludes the questions from our participants, I want to leave some last minute kind of call to actions. As I said, we'll be sending over the deck, the recording to our participants today. But there's a really quick and easy way to book some time with XQ if you want to go through a POC or get some demo licenses of the product and get your hands dirty and see how it works with your Microsoft environment. That is all possible. Or if you want to go through an additional technical demo with your greater team, that's also possible through these quick links to book time on their calendar. So with that, I'd love to say thank you to our guests. I'd love to say thank you to our speakers for their time in this hour. Please feel free to reach out to either Kelby or I. We'll leave our emails in the chat if you have any other questions around just the solution as a whole. But thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks so much for your time, and we'd love to work with you guys. So please feel free to reach out. I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised once you have access to the products.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.